Let me show you how I solve this problem. And again, this is only one way to solve it. I can think of other ways to do it. Your solution may be different, and you'll still get the correct solution. Here's the original challenge code. I know that I need to change something in this statement right here on line 20 in order to print out the average. Well, I know that an average is equal to the sum of a list of objects divided by the count of the number of items in that list. I also know I'm going to need some more PHP, so let's go ahead and add that in right here. I'll hit return, and then in here I'm going to put in the PHP tags that I need. I'm going to hit return. Now let's scroll down so I can see what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and create those two variables I was just talking about. I'll call it hamster weight sum. And we'll set it to 0 right now because I haven't added any hamsters to the list. I also need to keep track of how many hamsters there are in the list. So I'll go ahead and hit hamster count equals 0. Well, I like using that for each command because it makes working with an array fairly simple. So I'm going to set up a for each loop, for each. And I'll go ahead and fill out all the parts that I need right away just so I don't forget them later on. There. Now, for each says, for each element in an array. Well, the array I'm going to be working with is obviously $hamsters. And then I say, for each key value, I'm going to use as hamster name. So we'll just call that hamster name. And that associates with $hamster weight. There's my key value setups. Now, let's go ahead and give for each something to do. Well, the first thing it needs to do is create a running sum of all the hamsters in the array. So we're going to put that into hamster weight sum. And do you remember plus equals? Plus equals says, take something and add it to the variable on the left-hand side. So I want to add hamster weight to hamster weight sum each time we go through the loop. Now, as I go through the loop, I also want to increment the number of hamsters that I'm counting. Well, that's easy. $hamster count plus plus, semicolon. Now I've got a running list of the hamster weight sum and the number of hamsters in the list. Let's see, but that's not an average. An average is, and let's go ahead and set up a variable for this, $hamster weight average is equal to $hamster weight sum divided by $hamster count. Now I've got hamster weight average equal to the total value of all the values in the array divided by the count of all the items in the array. So I can now just simply go ahead and print $hamster weight average. And I believe that that will actually work. Let's go ahead and hit File, Save, and we'll flip over to the browser. And I'll go ahead and hit Refresh. Look at that. The average weight of a hamster is 4.1125 ounces. And that is a correct answer. Now, I was curious. I wonder if hamsters are overweight or underweight. How would I calculate that? Well, let's go ahead and add some more code in. I'm going to put in a question mark, PHP return. So I'm going to add more PHP code in here. And I'm going to say, let's see, for each $hamsters, because this is the hamster array we're working with, as hamster name assigned to, or key value relationship, $hamster weight. Now you'll notice that this line, for each, is identical to the previous for each I created. I'll go ahead and put in my curly braces and fix my tabs. Now, let's see. I would like to print out each line saying whether a hamster is overweight or underweight. So I'm going to do a print, so I need to first of all set up a print statement. And HTML likes to have a bracket P bracket at the start of all print lines. So let's go ahead and put that one in there. Don't forget my punctuation. Now, I'm going to say if it's bigger than average, then print out bigger than average. Or if it's average weight or smaller, then I want it to print something different. This sounds familiar. It's an if-then statement. So let's go ahead and put that in. You'll remember if, and then a parentheses, $hamster weight is greater than $hamster weight average, then print $hamster name. And remember this dot, what it does? Sure. The dot tells PHP to go ahead and print all of this information as one line. So it will print out the hamster name, and then it's going to print out is bigger than average. And I know I want to put a space in here. And we'll put in a semicolon afterwards. And then don't forget to close your parentheses. So that takes care of any case where a hamster, this is the hamster weight, weighs more than the hamster weight average. And remember, we're getting hamster weight as part of the key value component from for each. So there's hamster weight, and then there's hamster weight. Those two are assigned to each other. Hamster weight average was calculated up here in this line. So now, if the hamster weight is greater than the average hamster weight, it's going to say this hamster name, which comes from here, is bigger than average. Well, what about hamsters that are less than or equal to the average weight? Let's go ahead and say else. You'll remember else, of course. And I'm going to put in the bracket to close that away just so we don't forget it later. And if the hamster weight is not greater than the hamster weight average, then what we'll do is we'll print $hamster name dot quote is average weight or smaller. Don't forget your punctuation. Now we're using PHP, so I need to go ahead and close that print statement. Print less than \p greater than. Don't forget your semicolon. And this P matches this P. That's HTML. Let's go ahead and file, save that. Then we'll go back to the browser and see if I did it right. Oh, whoops. Invalid arguments supplied for each in my file on line 35. Well, that's a debugging message. Let's go back and take a look and see what I did. Line 35. There's something wrong with it. Can you see what I did wrong? It's actually a pretty small error. I called for an array called hamster, but in fact the array is called hamsters. So let's go ahead and put in the S for hamsters. We'll file, we'll save it, and I'll go back to the browser and refresh. Ah, this works. I still know that the average weight of a hamster is 4.1125 ounces, and I have a list of all of the hamsters and whether they're bigger than average, average weight, or smaller. That was my solution to the problem, and I did a little bit of extra credit. Again, what you did to solve the problem may have been different, but that doesn't make it wrong. There's always lots of ways to solve the problem, and they all work.